solving a system of equations using addition. Or we could even use subtraction. This is also called elimination. As well as linear combinations. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. The first thing that you need to do is you need to arrange the equations so that you have like terms in columns. Think about if we were to add two numbers like 2.0546 plus, say, 0.0008. Well, if you were going to do that problem, you would most likely line them up vertically, and you'd line up the decimal places. Place value is important. So if we were to do this problem, we would have to line everything up. And most likely, you would probably want to fill that in with a 0. My point is, lining up place value is very important. So if we're going to do this method which is also called addition or subtraction, then lining things up is going to be important. Then our next goal is to get opposite coefficients for one of the variables, for just one. So you may need to multiply one or both equations by a number to get those coefficients that are opposites. So the first thing, line them up. Second thing, opposite coefficients for one of the variables. Third thing is you're going to add the two equations together. What's going to happen is you're going to eliminate one of the variables, and then you're going to solve for the variable. The last thing that you're going to do is just like the previous lesson, which is to substitute your numerical answer into either of the equations and solve. And then if you've got time, check it. Okay, let's see how this works. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that everything is lined up. Okay, so I'm looking to make sure that my x's are lined up, my y's are lined up, my equal signs are lined up, and my constants are lined up. And they are. And because they are, I can move forward. So the next thing I want to check and see is if I have opposite coefficients for one of the variables. And I actually do. If you look at my y's, one is a positive 1y and the other one is a negative 1y. Those are opposites. Now, the reason we want opposites is because when you add a number and it's opposite, you get 0. So let's start adding. So x plus x is 2x. But positive y minus y is 0. It's gone. These two have eliminated. Equals 16. Now divide both sides by 2, and you have x is equal to 8. It's part of your answer. Now you're going to take that 8 and you're going to put it into either one of the equations. Doesn't matter. I'm going to put it in this one. I'm going to take that 8 and I'm going to put it in for x. And I get y is equal to 4. There we go. If I wanted to do a quick check, x plus y is 12. So 8 plus 4 is 12. That is true. X minus y is 4. 8 minus 4 is definitely 4. We're good. So this is a very, very basic example to show you. So again, let's talk about this. Step number 1, line everything up. Step number 2, get opposite coefficients. Step 3, add them, get an answer, and then plug it in to get the second answer. Okay, let's try again. Okay, so I'm looking at this one, and it is not lined up. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to decide how we want to get them lined up. Well, I'm looking at this thinking, I think I'm going to minus the c. Now, I do want to tell you there's lots of options here. You could have done a ton of things here. So I end up with 3D is equal to 9 minus C. And if you notice, the order for both of them is the same. So I'm starting off with my D's. Then I have my equal signs. Then I have my constants. And then finally, I have my variable C. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this because I don't want to do it the way it's written right now. So 2D is equal to negative 14 plus C. 3D is equal to 9 minus C. So you can look a little bit more like a negative. Okay, now they're lined up. I have to look for opposite coefficients. And if you noticed, whoops, I do not want the crayon. My C's have opposite coefficients. So I can go ahead and add this. So on this side, I get 5D equals negative 5. And when you add these two, they cancel. Divide both sides by 5. And I get D is equal to negative 1. There is my first answer. To get my second answer, you've got lots of options. You actually have your original equation right here. You've got a second original equation. And then you have the one that you rewrote, which is equivalent to one of the equations. You could use any of those three. I don't know. I think I'm going to use the C plus 3D equals 9. C plus 3 times negative 1 equals 9. And C minus 3 equals 9, which means C is 12. Okay, and we can do a quick mental check just to make sure. Let's see. So 2 times negative 1, is that going to be the same as negative 14 plus 12? Yes. Yes, that definitely works. I think I'll check on this one right here. So 3 times negative 1, is it the same as 9 minus 12? Yeah, negative 3 is negative 3. We're good. Perfect. All right, let's try another example. Okay, your first step is to make sure that the whole thing is lined up. And when I'm looking at this, I see the x's are lined up, my y's are not lined up. My equal signs are not lined up. So I've got some work to do. So let's choose an order, and it doesn't matter what order you choose. Typically what I tell students is to take one of the two equations and just use that order. So for example, you might like the way this one is written right here. So if this one is written, the x's followed by the y's followed by the equals with the constant on one side, do the same thing over here. So that means I think I'm going to add the 8. And that brings the 8 over on this side. And I think I'm going to add the 2y to both sides. So now I end up with x plus 2y equals positive 8. And my other one I'm going to keep the same. So now I want to look and see if I have opposite coefficients. And I actually do for the y's. So I can go ahead and add the two equations together. And I get 2x is 12. Divide both sides by 2. And it means x is equal to 6. And now I can take either one of the equations and solve for y. So I think I'll go with so I'm going to plug in the 6 right here. And just finish solving. So I get negative 2y is equal to negative 2. Divide both sides by negative 2. and y is equal to 1. And again, I can do a quick mental check if I want to do that. 6 minus 2 times 1 is 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. Six minus 2 is 4. That is true. And let's see. 6 minus 8, is that the same thing as negative 2 times positive 1? Yep, and negative 2 is equal to negative 2. So it works. Definitely checks. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so these are actually lined up. The problem is I do not have opposite coefficients for one of the variables. So we're lined up. Now we just have to decide which variable do we want to get rid of. If I choose to get rid of the m's, what is the opposite of positive 2m? Hopefully you're saying negative 2m. Okay, so given that, if this is a positive 2m, I need to make that negative 2m. To do that, I'm going to have to use multiplication or division. If I multiply, I'm going to multiply this whole thing by negative 2. So now this becomes negative 2m minus 4n equals negative 18. You have to use all your regular math rules. So whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. So this equation stays the same, the top one. Now I have opposite coefficients. So now I can go ahead and add the two equations together. These cancel, and I end up with negative 3n is equal to negative 6, and n is equal to positive 2. So now I'm just going to solve for my second variable. So m plus 2 times 2 is 9. M plus 4 is 9, which means m is 5. We could do a quick mental check if we want to do that. If you want to do it in your head, that's fine. I'm jotting it down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So 10 plus 2 is definitely 12. And here, 5 plus 2 times 2 is definitely 9. So apply it. 5 plus 4 is 9. We're good. Okay. So now we have one that's a little bit more complicated because we're not lined up and we also don't have opposite coefficients. So let's get them lined up. I think I like the order of the first ones. So I think that I like the fact that we have r's followed by m's followed by our constant. Oops. Okay. What I think I might do is I think I might add the 3m, and you might have done something different. I have to tell you, there's lots of things you could have done here. So I'm going to do 2r plus 3m equals 12. Now I'm in the exact same order as the one above. So r's, m's, equal signs, constants. Looks good. I'm going to rewrite it so it's a little less confusing. Okay, so they're lined up, but I don't have opposite coefficients. Now this is a big teaching moment for me because we can get rid of the r's or the m's. Clearly it's going to be easier to get rid of the m's, and that's where the whole idea of subtraction comes in. But if I wanted to get rid of the r's, what is a number that 5 and 2 both go into? It's got to be any number that 5 and 2 both go into. So I would choose 10. And if I wanted to get rid of the r's, I would multiply the top, say, by 2, because that would give me a 10r plus 6m equals 60. And if I multiply the top by 2, I would have to multiply the bottom by negative 5, because negative 5 times 2 would give me negative 10r. Okay, but that is not the easiest way to do this problem. But I want you to know that that is a possibility. We can do it that way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the idea of subtraction, because this is a positive 3m right here. Whoops. That's a positive 3m. If I can make that a negative 3m, my life's going to be a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to multiply one of the equations by negative 1. Or I can look at it as subtraction. Either way, it doesn't matter. So either look at it as multiplying one of the equations by negative 1, or look at it as subtracting. Okay, just be careful of the minus and minus. You know minus and minus would be a plus, so just be careful of that. So now let's go ahead and add them. Or subtract them, however you want to look at it. These are going to cancel, and this over here should give you, what, 18? So r is equal to 6. And then you have several equations to choose from. I think I'm going to go with the 5r plus 3m equals 30. So 5 times 6 plus 3m is equal to 30. So 30 plus 3m is 30. Don't panic. Every time kids get a 0, they panic. If you can do this, divide both sides by 3, and you get m is equal to 0. Remember, you just can't have 0 in the denominator. You can't divide by 0, but having a 0 on the top is fine. So if I wanted to do my quick check, let's see. 2 times 6 plus 3 times 0 is 12. Yes, 12 is 12. Let's do the check on the top. 5 times 6 plus 3 times 0 is 30. Yes, 30 is 30. Okay. Now, what I want you to do, this is going to take you several days. Do not do in one day. Tomorrow I will post another video with some harder questions. The harder questions are, and you don't have a note sheet for this, I'm just going to post it. It's just going to have a couple questions where you will have to rewrite and you will have to multiply one or both. I would have done this over the course of 3 days, so I don't expect you to do this all in one night. I'd like you to take a couple days, start with the easier questions. These always start with easy and build to harder. So do maybe the first, I don't know, 4 or 5, or even 6, or however many you want. So take 2 or 3 days to do this assignment. Do not do it in one day, okay? And watch again tomorrow because I'll post another video with some harder questions on it. Good luck. Email me if you have any questions.